Who came walking down the street? A funny man. What did the funny man wear on his head? A shoe. What did he wear on his feet? Hats. How did the funny man greet the poet? He raised the shoe and smiled politely. What did the funny man offer the poet? A currant bone. What did the funny man call the poet? Your Highness. How did the poet react to the currant bone? She staggered back against the wall. What did the poet say about the rose? It had a funny looking smell. What did the funny man do after offering the bun? He sang a song. Where did the funny man sit? On the ground. What did the poet say about the sound of the song? It was a funny feeling sound. What question did the poet ask the funny man? Why do you wear two hats upon your feet? How did the funny man respond to the question? He turned the other way about. How did the funny man go home? He hopped home on his head. What kind of poem is a funny man? A humorous poem. Who is the poet of A Funny Man? Natalie Jones. What is unusual about the funny man's appearance? Wearing a shoe on his head and hats on his feet. What does the phrase funny sounds sight mean? Something that looks funny and sounds unusual. How does the funny man behave? Playfully and politely. What feeling does the poem mainly create? Amusement. Is the funny man rude or polite? Polite. What is a currant bun? A sweet bread with dried fruit. How does the poet describe the funny man's manners? Polite. Why is the funny man called funny? Because of his strange behavior and dress. What is the tone of the poem? Light and humorous. Does the funny man say anything to the poet? Yes, he offers a rose and sings a song. What does the funny man hold to the poet's nose? A currant bone. How does the poet feel about the funny man? Amused and surprised. What is unusual about the funny man's way of going home? He hops on his head. What kind of rhyme scheme does the poem have? AABB. What is a phrasal verb in the poem? Walking down, taking out, sat down. Does the poem have a narrative style? Yes. How many stanzas are there in the poem? 4. What does staggered back mean? Moved backward unsteadily. What did the poet call the funny man? My friend. What makes the poem funny? The unusual actions and dress of the man. What is the poet's reaction to the funny man's song? She finds it funny and unusual. What kind of smell did the rose have? A funny looking smell. What is the main theme of the poem? Humor and playfulness. What does hopped home on his head describe? The funny man's unusual way of living. Does the poem use repetition? Yes, the word funny is repeated. Is the poem meant to teach a lesson? It mainly entertains. What is the effect of the rhyme in the poem? It makes the poem rhythmic and fun. What does the funny man symbolize? Imagination and playful behavior. What does the poet talk about in the poem? A funny man she met. What is the poet's mood in the poem? Amused and curious. What is the poet's tone when she says, well? Surprised. How does the funny man represent the currant bone? As if offering a rose. What is the humorous contrast in the poem? The man's strange dress and polite manners. What does the funny man do last in the poem? Hops home on his head.